The colony of Ryan, 4, was a quiet human settlement on the edge of known space. Surrounded by thick alien forests and high stone ridges, the people lived with one rule that had been passed down for generations: fear the dragons. Stories told around fires spoke of giant wings darkening the skies, of flames that could melt steel, of entire cities destroyed in a single night. The elders said dragons could never be trusted. They were not like other creatures. They were clever, dangerous, and filled with hate for mankind. For most children, these stories were enough to keep them inside the safe walls of the colony. But not for Aiden. Aiden was only 6 years old. He was small, curious, and restless. While other children played games inside the safety of the gates, he often wandered near the forest edge. He loved the smell of the tall glowing trees, and the way strange insects lit up the night with sparks of blue and green. His mother warned him again and again, but Aiden's curiosity was stronger than his fear. One late afternoon, when the sky was painted in red light, Aiden slipped out of the colony gates. He followed a narrow trail that led deeper into the forest. The air was warm, and he heard the sound of water dripping from high leaves. Birds with sharp calls echoed through the trees. That was when he saw it. A strange shape lay half-buried in the ground near a stream. At first, Aiden thought it was a stone, smooth and shining. But when he moved closer, he saw cracks across its surface, and light pulsing from within. His small heart beat faster. He remembered the old tales. Dragon eggs were said to glow before they hatched. He should have run back. He should have screamed for help. But Aiden did not move. His wide eyes stayed fixed on the egg. Something about it pulled him closer. The egg shook. A sharp sound came from inside. Another crack spread across its surface. Then, slowly, the shell broke apart. From within, a small head pushed through. It was covered in dark silver scales, each one glowing faintly as if fire lived under the skin. 2 golden eyes opened, bright and sharp, and for a moment they locked on Aiden. The boy froze. His breath caught in his throat. The stories of monsters and fire rushed through his mind. The creature was a dragon hatchling. Everyone in the colony believed such a thing was death itself. But the hatchling did not strike. It did not scream or spit fire. Instead, it gave a soft sound, almost like a cry. Weak, confused, it struggled to push free of its shell. Its small claws scratched the ground, and its wings, tiny, fragile things, unfolded like wet cloth. Aiden stepped closer, without thinking. His fear was still there, but another feeling rose stronger: pity. The hatchling looked helpless, not dangerous. It looked alone. Slowly, the boy reached out his hand. The dragon lifted its head, nostrils flaring, and sniffed the air. Aiden's fingers trembled, but he did not pull back. The hatchling pressed its nose against his hand, warm and alive. Something passed between them in that moment. A quiet understanding. Aiden whispered, his voice shaking, "I'm not afraid." The dragon blinked, tilting its head as if it understood. Then it let out a soft hiss and curled closer, half against the broken shell. Aiden's chest filled with a strange joy. The stories had been wrong. This was not a monster. This was a baby, no different from him. But in the distance, voices carried through the forest. Harsh, angry voices. Tracks. Claw marks here. Spread out. If it's a hatchling, we finish it before it grows. Aiden froze. Soldiers. He had seen them in the colony, always armed, always strict. The council had sent them many times into the wild to hunt. Now they were searching for the same hatchling standing in front of him. Fear returned to Aiden's small heart. He looked at the dragon. It stared back at him, golden eyes wide, as if it too felt the danger coming. He knew what the soldiers would do. They would not see a helpless baby. They would see a monster that must be killed. Aiden whispered again, urgent now, "Hide. Please hide." The hatchling tilted its head, confused. It did not move. It only pressed closer to him, as if he was the only safe thing in this strange new world. The voices grew louder. Branches snapped as heavy boots pushed through the trees. Aiden's hands shook. His mind raced. He was only 6 years old. What could he do against armed soldiers? Yet deep inside, he knew one thing. He could not let them find the hatchling. He crouched low, spreading his arms around the small dragon, shielding it as best as he could. His eyes filled with tears, but his voice was steady. "I will protect you." The forest grew silent for a moment. Then, the sound of boots drew close, very close. The boy and the hatchling sat together, hidden only by shadows. The golden eyes of the dragon shone softly in the dark. The soldiers were only steps away. Would they discover him? Would they see the hatchling? The answer was only seconds away. The soldiers did not find them that evening. Aiden had pressed himself low against the earth, holding his breath, his arms curled around the hatchling's body. The dragon stayed silent, as if it somehow knew the danger too. Boots crunched on the ground just a few steps away. Then the sound faded, the voices moved further, and finally, silence returned to the forest. Only then did Aiden dare to breathe again. He looked down at the hatchling. Its golden eyes still glowed faintly in the dark, watching him with a strange trust. The boy smiled nervously. "We're safer for now." But Aiden knew it would not stay safe forever. If the soldiers returned, if anyone from the colony saw this little creature, they would kill it. That night, he walked back carefully, his mind racing with thoughts. At only 6 years old, he carried a secret bigger than anything he had ever known. A secret that could change everything. The next day, Aiden could not stop thinking about the hatchling. He remembered its warmth against his hand, its helpless cry, and the way it had pressed close to him. While his mother spoke at dinner, while other children laughed and played, Aiden's thoughts were far away, back in the forest. Finally, when the sun began to sink again, he slipped away once more. He carried a small piece of bread he had hidden from the meal. His heart raced as he crossed the gate, hoping no guard noticed the boy wandering out alone. He hurried to the same place near the stream. For a moment, his chest sank with fear. What if the soldiers had found it first? But then, from the shadows, 2 golden eyes blinked. The hatchling stepped out, weak but alive. Its scales caught the red glow of the setting sun. When it saw Aiden, it let out a soft hiss, not of anger, but recognition. "You're still here," Aiden whispered with relief. He broke the bread into small pieces and placed them carefully on the ground. The hatchling sniffed them, then ate clumsily, its small teeth crunching. Aiden laughed quietly. "You like it." From that day, it became their secret routine. Each evening, Aiden would bring food, bread, dried meat, sometimes fruit, and share it with the dragon. Each time he came, the hatchling grew a little bigger, a little stronger. He gave it a name. "Ember," he said one night, pointing at the faint glow under its scales. "Because you shine like fire." The dragon tilted its head, as if listening. Slowly, it began to respond to his voice. When he called Ember, it would turn its head or even step closer. It was not just an animal. It was learning. Meanwhile, back in the colony, fear was spreading. Hunters reported seeing burnt tree bark in the forest. Farmers whispered about strange claw marks near their fields. Some swore they had heard the cry of a beast at night. The council gathered. "It is a hatchling," one of the elders said firmly. "It must be destroyed before it becomes a monster." The soldiers were ordered to double their patrols. The search grew more serious. Aiden listened to these words in silence, his stomach twisting. If they ever found Ember, they would not listen to him. They would never believe a child saying a dragon was not dangerous. So Aiden kept his secret. He told no one, not even his mother. Days passed. Weeks passed. Ember grew fast. What once fit under Aiden's arms now stood up to his chest. The wings were still small, not ready for flight, but the body was stronger, the claws sharper. Yet Ember never harmed Aiden. On the contrary, the dragon grew gentler with him. Sometimes, when Aiden laughed, Ember would mimic the sound with a strange chirp. When Aiden was sad or afraid, Ember would curl close, pressing its warm scales against him. A bond was forming, one that was deeper than words. One evening, while Aiden scratched gently behind Ember's jaw, the dragon made a low, rumbling sound. At first Aiden panicked, thinking it was a growl. But then he realized it was something else, something like a purr. "You like that," he said with wonder. "You really do understand me." Ember blinked, golden eyes glowing, and leaned into his small hands. But peace never lasts for long. One night, Another child from the colony followed Aiden without him knowing. Curious about where the boy always disappeared to, she trailed him through the forest, hiding behind the trees. She saw everything. She saw the bread, the laughter, and finally, the dragon. Her scream split the silence. Monster! Monster in the forest! Aiden spun around, his face pale. Ember hissed, spreading its wings in alarm. The girl ran back toward the colony, her cries echoing through the trees. Aiden's chest filled with terror. The secret was broken. The soldiers would know. The council would know. He turned to Ember, whispering quickly, desperately. "Stay hidden. Please. Don't let them see you." But Ember's golden eyes were full of fear too. The bond between them was strong, but the danger outside was stronger. The colony would come, and this time they would not stop until the hatchling was gone. Aiden's secret bond was no longer safe. The scream of the girl carried all the way back to the colony. By the time Aiden reached the gates, soldiers were already preparing to march. The girl cried and pointed toward the forest. "I saw it. A dragon, with wings, claws, and fire in its eyes." The council members gathered, their faces pale and hard. "So it is true," one of the elders said. "The old threat has returned." The commander of the guard lifted his rifle. "We end it now, before it grows." The people nodded, frightened but eager to be safe. No one questioned the decision. After all, dragons were monsters in their stories. Monsters could not be spared. Aiden's heart raced. He wanted to shout, to tell them the truth, that Ember was not a monster, that it was only a hatchling, harmless and kind. But he bit his lip. He was just a child. No one would listen. He ran home that night, tears stinging his eyes. His mother saw him trembling. "Aiden, what's wrong?" she asked softly. But Aiden could not answer. If he spoke, if anyone knew his secret, Ember's life would be over. So he stayed silent. The soldiers began their hunt the very next morning. Heavy boots stomped through the gates, rifles shining under the pale sun. The colonists watched with fear, whispering prayers, as the patrols moved into the forest. Aiden watched too, but his fear was different. His fear was not for the people. It was for Ember. That evening, he slipped away once more, running to the stream where they first met. Ember was waiting, its golden eyes brightening when it saw him. The dragon chirped softly and nudged his chest, but Aiden did not smile this time. "They're coming for you," he whispered. "The soldiers, they want to kill you." Ember tilted its head as if listening. It made a low sound, almost like a growl, but not at Aiden, at the world outside. "I'll protect you," Aiden promised. His tiny hands pressed against the warm scales. "But you must stay hidden. Please." Over the next days, the bond between boy and dragon grew even stronger, but so did the danger. The soldiers found broken branches, claw marks, and scorched soil. Ember's fire was small, only sparks, but it left signs behind. The commander grew more certain each day. "The beast is here. We're closing in." The colony lived in fear. Children were kept indoors. Fires burned at night to keep the darkness away. Everyone whispered about the monster in the woods. And in the middle of it all, Aiden carried the weight of a secret he could tell no one. One night, while Aiden sat beside Ember, feeding it small pieces of dried meat, he whispered, "You're not a monster. You saved me from being alone. You're my friend." Ember lowered its head, golden eyes glowing softly, and pressed against him. The warmth of the dragon's body made Aiden feel safe, even while the world outside grew colder with fear. But the secret could not last forever. 2 nights later, while Aiden crept through the forest, someone followed again. This time it was not a curious child. It was a soldier. The man froze when he saw the dragon beside the boy. His eyes widened with horror. He raised his weapon. Aiden jumped in front of Ember, arms wide. "No. Don't hurt him." The soldier hesitated. He had expected a raging beast, not a small boy standing protectively in front of a glowing hatchling. But fear was stronger than reason. His finger tightened on the trigger. Before he could fire, Ember hissed, sparks flying from its mouth. The soldier stumbled back, shouting, "It's real! The monster is here!" He ran toward the colony, his voice echoing through the trees. Aiden's heart sank. The truth was out now. Not just a rumor, not just whispers, proof. Soldiers would come in greater numbers. They would not stop. He turned to Ember, tears in his eyes. "They'll come for you. They'll never understand." Ember nudged him gently, sensing his fear. Its small wings unfolded, trembling, as if it wanted to protect him too. But Aiden was only 6, and Ember was still too young to fly. They were both small against the power of the colony. The next morning, the council made its decision. The commander's voice was cold as steel. "We strike at dawn. The hatchling will not live to become a monster." Cheers of agreement rose from the frightened people. They wanted safety. They wanted the threat gone. None of them saw what Aiden saw. None of them knew the truth. The boy listened from the shadows, his fists clenched. His chest ached with fear. He had only one thought: he must protect Ember, no matter the cost. That night, Aiden ran to the forest. He found Ember waiting near the stream, eyes glowing like small suns in the darkness. The dragon chirped when it saw him, but Aiden dropped to his knees, wrapping his arms around its neck. "They're coming tomorrow," he whispered, voice shaking. "They'll try to kill you. I don't know what to do." Ember pressed its head against him, a deep rumble in its chest. It was not afraid. Not yet. But Aiden knew the truth. If the soldiers came with fire and steel, Ember could not escape. The boy's tears fell onto the dragon's scales. "I won't let them hurt you. I promise." Above them, the forest was silent, but in the distance, torches glowed as soldiers gathered for the hunt. The chase was about to begin. Dawn came with the sound of drums. The soldiers of the colony gathered at the gates, rifles shining, armor strapped tight. The commander raised his hand, his voice loud and sharp. "Today, we end the dragon threat. No hatchling will grow to destroy us." The people cheered, though fear still clung to their eyes. Mothers held their children close. Men whispered about fire and death. Everyone believed the hunt was necessary. But one small boy, hidden in the crowd, felt only terror. Aiden's heart pounded. He watched the soldiers march into the forest, torches burning in the gray light. They were heading toward Ember, toward his only friend. He slipped away, unnoticed, his tiny feet carrying him faster than ever before. He ran through the trees, branches scratching his arms, until he reached the stream where Ember waited. The dragon lifted its head as Aiden stumbled into the clearing. Ember's golden eyes glowed with recognition, and it gave a soft sound, almost happy to see him. "No time," Aiden gasped, clutching Ember's warm neck. "They're coming. You have to move." Ember hissed, tilting its head, sensing the danger in his voice. The sound of boots and shouts echoed in the distance. The soldiers were closing in. Aiden pulled at Ember's wing, desperate. "Please, you have to run." But Ember was still too young. Its wings were not strong enough to fly. Its legs carried it quickly, but not faster than men with torches and rifles. So Aiden led the way. The little boy darted through the trees, and Ember followed close, claws digging into the soil. The forest lit with torchlight as soldiers spread out, shouting commands. "There. Tracks. Follow them. Don't let the beast escape." The chase had begun. Branches snapped. Dogs barked, trained to track the scent of prey. Ember moved clumsily, knocking against trees, leaving marks behind. Aiden grabbed its claw and pulled, whispering, "This way, come on, hurry!" But the soldiers were faster. Shots cracked through the air. Bullets tore into the trees, splinters flying past Aiden's face. Ember roared, a sound that shook the ground, and sparks flew from its mouth. The soldiers stumbled back in fear. "It breathes fire already," one shouted. The commander's voice boomed. "Aim. Kill it before it grows stronger." A rain of bullets came. Ember ducked low, curling around Aiden, protecting the boy with its body. Scales clanged as metal struck, but the hatchling's skin was already tough. Sparks flew again, this time brighter. A burst of flame erupted, short but fierce, lighting the trees. The soldiers fell back in shock. Some shouted in fear. Others cursed. The forest began to burn. Aiden's voice cracked as he cried out. "Stop! He's not a monster! Please stop!" But no one listened. They saw only fire, only danger. The commander raised his weapon, his eyes cold. "Do not hesitate. Kill it now." The soldiers advanced again, rifles steady. Aiden's chest ached. He stood in front of Ember, tiny arms spread wide. Tears ran down his face. "No. You don't understand. He's my friend." For a moment, the soldiers hesitated. The image was strange. One small boy, standing between their rifles and a dragon hatchling. The whispers of the crowd back home had never described this. But the commander's voice cut through their doubt. "The boy is tricked. The beast is controlling him. Move aside, child." Aiden shook his head fiercely. "No. He would never hurt me." Behind him, Ember hissed, wings shaking. The dragon's golden eyes glowed brighter, sensing Aiden's fear. It pressed close to him, protecting him just as he protected it. The soldiers raised their weapons again. Suddenly, the ground shook. From the trees, another creature burst forward, an alien predator drawn by the fire and noise. Its long jaws snapped, teeth gleaming, as it lunged at the nearest soldier. Chaos exploded. Men screamed. Guns fired in every direction. The predator roared, slashing with claws. Aiden spun, his eyes wide with horror. The beast was massive, far bigger than Ember, and its gaze turned toward him. Before Aiden could move, Ember leapt forward. The hatchling roared, fire bursting from its throat in a brilliant flash. The predator shrieked as flames struck its hide. Ember clawed at its face, forcing it back. Aiden fell to the ground, staring in shock. Ember was fighting not as a monster, but as a protector. The soldiers froze, their rifles lowered. They had expected the dragon to attack them. Instead, it was saving them. The predator staggered back into the trees, hissing in pain, before vanishing into the darkness. The fire slowly dimmed, leaving only smoke and silence. Ember stood tall, chest heaving, scales glowing faintly with heat. Then it turned, walking back to Aiden, and gently nudged him with its nose. The boy wrapped his arms around its neck, sobbing with relief. "I knew it. You're not a monster. You're my friend." The soldiers stared in disbelief. None of them moved. None of them spoke. Finally, one whispered, "It saved the boy. It saved us." But the commander's face twisted with anger. His rifle rose once more, the barrel aimed at Ember's glowing chest. "Do not be fooled. It's still a dragon. And dragons must die." Aiden's eyes widened in terror. He scrambled to his feet, standing between the commander and his friend once again. "No. Please. He's not like the stories. You saw it. He saved us." The commander's finger curled around the trigger. His eyes were full of hatred. The forest was silent, waiting. Would the man fire? Or would he finally see the truth? The commander's finger tightened on the trigger. The barrel of the rifle glowed red in the firelight, aimed straight at Ember's chest. Aiden stood in front of the dragon, arms spread wide, his small body trembling but unmoving. His voice cracked as he shouted, "You can't. He's not a monster. He saved us." For a brief second, silence hung in the burning forest. Soldiers looked at each other nervously. They had seen Ember fight off the predator. They had seen the boy shield the hatchling again and again. Their fear was strong, but so was their doubt. "Commander," one soldier whispered, "the beast protected him. It protected all of us." "Quiet," the commander barked, his eyes locked on Ember. "This is how it begins. First it pretends to be harmless. Then, when we hesitate, it grows, it strikes, and we all burn. Move aside, boy." Aiden shook his head fiercely, tears streaming down his cheeks. "No. He's my friend. He would never hurt me." Ember pressed closer to the boy, its golden eyes glowing like molten fire. The hatchling's wings spread slightly, trembling, not in attack, but in protection. The commander's face twisted with rage. "So be it." He pulled the trigger. But before the shot struck, Ember moved. With a roar that shook the ground, the hatchling leapt forward, wrapping its body around Aiden. The bullet hit its scales with a sharp clang and ricocheted away. Ember hissed, sparks bursting from its mouth. The soldiers stumbled back, guns rising again. Chaos was seconds away. Then, from the shadows, came another sound. A roar, deeper and louder than embers. The alien predator had returned, this time with others. Red eyes gleamed in the smoke as two more creatures slithered from the dark, jaws snapping, claws tearing at the ground. The soldiers panicked. "There's more of them. Hold your fire. They're surrounding us." The commander cursed, turning his weapon. "Kill them all." The predators charged. Soldiers fired wildly, the forest exploding with light and noise. But the creatures were fast, too fast. One lunged at a soldier, knocking him to the ground. Another leapt toward the commander himself, jaws wide. Before the beast could strike, Ember launched forward. Fire burst from the hatchling's throat, a blazing stream brighter and hotter than before. The predator screamed, blinded, its skin scorched by flame. Ember slammed into it with claws and teeth, driving it back into the burning trees. The second predator spun toward Aiden. The boy stumbled, falling to the ground, frozen in terror. "No!" Ember whirled, eyes blazing. With a roar, it lunged between Aiden and the beast. The predator's claws slashed across Ember's shoulder, but the dragon didn't fall. Instead, it answered with fire, a wave of heat so fierce it lit the night like day. The predator shrieked, retreating into the shadows. Silence returned slowly. Smoke rose from the burned earth. The surviving predators fled, hissing into the distance. Aiden crawled forward, his hands shaking as he touched Ember's side. Blood ran from a wound where the claws had struck, but the dragon still stood tall, breathing heavily, golden eyes fixed on him. "You saved me," Aiden whispered, his voice breaking. "You saved all of us." The soldiers stared, stunned. Their rifles hung limp at their sides. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. This hatchling had risked its life, not to destroy, but to protect. It fought for the boy," one soldier murmured. "It fought for us," said another. The commander's face was pale with fury. His authority was slipping. He raised his weapon again, voice harsh. "You fools! Don't be deceived. It's still a dragon. That is what they do. They trick, they destroy." But his words no longer carried the same weight. The soldiers hesitated. Their fear of Ember had been replaced with something else, respect. "Doubt." One soldier lowered his gun completely. "Sir, we can't ignore what we saw. The hatchling protected the child. It protected us all from those beasts." Another nodded slowly. Maybe this dragon is different." The commander's eyes burned with anger. "There is no different. There is only fire and death." He turned his weapon toward Ember again. Aiden's voice rose, louder than ever before, filled with desperate courage. "Stop, please. You don't understand." He pointed at Ember, tears still streaking his cheeks. "He saved me the day he was born. He's my friend. He's not a monster, he's family." The words hung in the air. The soldiers shifted uneasily. Family. That word struck deep. To them, dragons had always been enemies, never companions. But here was a boy, only 6 years old, standing in firelight with a wounded hatchling shielding him, proving the old stories wrong. The commander's grip on his weapon tightened. He looked ready to fire, ready to end it once and for all. But then Ember did something no one expected. The hatchling stepped forward, slow and steady, until it stood just a few feet from the commander. Its body was scorched and bleeding, but its golden eyes did not burn with hate. They glowed with calm fire, bright but steady. It lowered its head. Not in attack. In trust. The soldiers gasped softly. Even Aiden stared, wide-eyed. Ember was showing the commander mercy. For the first time, the commander hesitated. His weapon shook in his hands. The fire around them crackled. The forest was silent except for the soft sound of Ember's breathing and the quick heartbeat of the boy beside him. Would the commander pull the trigger? Or would he finally see the truth? The answer balanced on the edge of one man's choice. The commander's finger still hovered on the trigger. His hands shook, his face twisted between anger and doubt. The soldiers around him held their breath, waiting to see what he would choose. Before him stood the hatchling, Ember, wounded, bleeding, but unbowed. Its golden eyes glowed not with hate, but with calm fire. It had lowered its head in trust, even after the commander had tried to kill it. And beside Ember, tiny and unbreakable, stood Aiden. The 6-year-old's arms were spread wide, his small body a shield for the dragon. His voice rang out, trembling but strong. "He is my friend. He is not our enemy." The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. Ember had fought the predators, not them. Ember had saved Aiden again and again. Could the old stories have been wrong? The commander's eyes burned with fury. His voice came sharp and cold. "You are all fools. Dragons cannot be trusted. Kill it, or we will all regret it." He steadied his rifle. Aiden screamed. "No!" The sound carried through the smoke-filled forest, through the fear and fire. His cry was not just a child's fear, it was a plea, a command, a truth spoken from the heart. At that same moment, Ember spread its wings. For days they had been too weak, too small. But now, as the boy's voice echoed, something inside the dragon awakened. A surge of strength. A fire born not from rage, but from loyalty. The wings stretched wide, glowing faintly in the light of the flames. Ember let out a roar so powerful it shook the trees, forcing soldiers to stumble back. A wave of fire burst from its throat, not to destroy, but to defend, a circle of heat that pushed the soldiers away without burning them. Aiden clung to Ember's side, his eyes wide in wonder. "You can fly. I knew you could." The commander fell back, shielded from the flames by his men. His rifle slipped from his hands, clattering to the ground. For the first time, fear filled his eyes, not of destruction, but of truth. He had seen it now. The dragon was not attacking. It was protecting. The other soldiers lowered their weapons. One spoke softly, almost to himself. "The boy was right." Another nodded. "It chose to save him. It chose to save us." The commander's face twisted with rage and shame. He wanted to argue, to order them to fire again, but no one moved. The power of fear had broken. The truth was clear. Ember lowered its wings slowly, fire fading from its throat. Its golden eyes turned back to Aiden. The boy reached up, pressing his tiny hands against the dragon's warm scales. "We'll be okay," he whispered. "They understand now." For the first time, hope filled his small chest. The commander stumbled back, defeated, while the council members who had followed into the forest watched in silence. They had seen the same truth. The ancient stories of hatred and fire had blinded them, but this night had torn the old beliefs apart. One elder stepped forward, her face lined with years of fear and wisdom. She looked at Aiden, then at Ember. "Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps the time of fear is over." The soldiers put out the flames in the forest, but no one raised their weapons again. Instead, they watched as Aiden sat beside Ember, resting his head against the dragon's warm body. To them, the image was unforgettable, a boy and a hatchling, side by side, neither afraid of the other. The commander, face red with anger, spat on the ground and walked away into the smoke. His voice was bitter. "This will end in fire. Remember my words." But the people no longer followed his lead. Their eyes stayed on the boy and the dragon, and something inside them began to change. Days later, the colony spoke of the event in whispers. Some still feared Ember, but others began to believe. Aiden's courage and Ember's loyalty had planted a seed that no story could erase. The council made a decision. The hatchling would not be killed. It would live, under watch, yes, but alive. And Aiden, he was given a place no child had ever held before. Guardian. The boy who had stood between mankind and fear. Every evening, Aiden visited Ember at the forest's edge. The dragon's wounds healed. Its wings grew stronger. Each day, it stretched higher, glowing brighter. One night, under a sky full of stars, Aiden pressed his forehead against Ember's. His voice was soft, filled with certainty. "One day you will fly. And when you do, I'll be with you." Ember's golden eyes gleamed. A low, rumbling sound filled the air, not a growl, but a promise. The boy and the dragon had found each other in a world filled with fear. Against all odds, they had forged something new. Not fear. Not hatred. Friendship. Far away, in the silence of a universe, no one yet knew what this bond would mean. For a 6-year-old child had befriended the very creature humanity feared most. And that single act of courage was only the beginning. Because where there is one dragon, there are more. And where there is one boy brave enough to see the truth, others may follow. The story of Aiden and Ember had just begun.